Welcome back to the shop. I'm filming this introduction at the end of this video. We're going to cover some alternates for a perfect handle screwdriver scales. And it just happens to be that there's a whole barrage of Scoutcrafter inspired perfect handle projects. I haven't watched it yet, but I just saw that he's got the giant screwdriver restoration up. But it was his prior video that when he was lamenting about how difficult it was to put scales on, that sort of inspired me to take on this task. So from here we'll sort of go back and give you a montage of some of the different methods, the two methods that Clay and I had tried, and we're going to pick that up from here, and then we'll bring you back and show you our results. This might be sacrilegious for some of these people that are purists about tools, but I wonder if I could sculpt a handle. We'll take some Bondo and put it on here and file it off and see how that works. Just an experiment. So if this is going to be Bondo, no doubt I'm going to have to paint this thing. So I'm not worried about putting brass in or anything. I'm just going to drill and tap the ends of this, put in a 5/16 18 bolt, and then we'll sand it off because it's all going to be covered up. So. This is probably a bad idea. Alright, Clay wants in on this game. So, this isn't going so well. It's not horrible, but I'm going to wait for it to dry for a day. And I need to come back and grind this. I need to get a mask on and take this over to the sander. I've been sort of paring this off with the utility knife, and at this rate, it's pretty easy for me to go ahead and pare this back. But I mixed it wrong, and I didn't think the process through. So I probably should have made a sleeve of some sort, got a piece of toilet paper roll, and compacted it in there and made a proper sleeve for it because this sort of schmooed out everywhere. So that didn't work, but Clay's going to try some acrylic, clear, 2-part epoxy stuff, tabletop epoxy. So we got this old auto wrench, so let me go ahead and get it cleaned up and prepped, and we'll bring you back when we have a couple examples. Alright, the ultra precision. Alright, we'll let that touch off and probably come back tomorrow. Well, I've got the first batch done, and you can see some low spots in there, and of course a big chunk missing here, so I'm going to come back and whip up another batch, fill these in, and keep sanding it, and then we'll probably move on to some paint. Well, there it is after the sanding with the Mead belt sander. And this is definitely sculpting, which means I'm not good at it. The sides aren't necessarily symmetrical. I think the screws that I use, the 5/16 18 screws, probably work well in terms of holding, giving some additional space for this Bondo to hold on to. And right now my dilemma is, how do I paint this? Because it's not like wood where you can come back in and sand this off without interrupting the paint. So I've sort of got a little bit of a predicament in terms of finishing it. I think I might try to spray paint this and wipe down the edges. We'll see how that works. I might wreck it, but for the sake of learning, we'll give it a shot. Well, the bottom seems to be wet. It's been a week. But the top is extremely hard. It's the first time we messed with it, so we'll just keep trying. Looks like it's got pretty good clarity. Looks like ice. So here is the final product for the Bondo handle. I had tried to paint it and then come back and clean up the rivets, and it just was impossible. There was no way to, that I knew of, to go ahead and have a crisp finish between the edges and the rest of it. And you can see I probably could have done a little bit better job fading these lines together. This is a dusty mess. It was not fun to do. I think it did a great job getting into all the nooks and crannies. I wouldn't say that it was, any easier at the end of the day. It is different, but I wouldn't say that it's an improvement on scales. The dust, the body work, the cost of the material, all that, you won't see me doing this again. But now we know. And I think that from when I watched 357 Magdad with his, he used a quick, JB Quick, the wood version. He was able to finish his, and it looked beautiful. I think that his version would probably be a superior way to go in terms of having a finish, because now I'm relegated to this pink tan handle. I think it feels useful. It feels very sturdy, but for aesthetics, not so much. Let's check out Clay's. So I think Clay's has the most promise. It is definitely the neatest. Can you see that? That is clear epoxy. So the clear epoxy, however, there are some voids in here, and he had mixed it up relatively well, or so we had thought, but that clear epoxy did not fill in all the voids for whatever reason. It stayed soft, and of course we just washed it out of there with some acetone. And then the other side, we spent, for video purposes, Clay spent a lot of time polishing this down to some 2000 grit. And then we put a little bit of machine oil on there to just make it look nicer. And Clay calls it movie magic. But you can see the difference when you add a little bit of oil to it. It makes it look far nicer than it really is. So that's how we do it. That's how we make everything. We lie to you. No, seriously, I think it's this was fun, and I'm not going to say anything good, bad, and different about the product. It definitely, I think we started right, but there's definitely a learning curve to the two-part epoxy. I would say that I wish I had a channel to recommend somebody who's an expert with this kind of stuff, or a particular brand. The brand that we used was a tabletop epoxy, so maybe that's where things went awry. Who knows? But again, it shows some promise, and I'm sure the errors that we had were user errors and not necessarily the product. So I think it'd be fun to experiment more with this. And in particular, when I was talking to 357, he was talking about tinting some of the clear epoxy, which really sounds fun. I think if you put some flake in there or something, you could probably make some wild looking stuff. So that's it. Those are the two alternates, and I guess for those of you who haven't, or maybe new to the channel, I had also done a Delrin style handle. So it's unlimited. You can do anything you want to with these things, provided you have some degree of patience, which I don't necessarily have. This was painful to do, but I like the end result. This was sort of fun, and I think far superior to wood. So that's it for today's episode, and I'm glad that we all got a bunch of different screwdrivers on at the same time. It's sort of fun that we all think alike, or how Scoutcrafter inspires us to get out in the shop and tinker. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I hope you're having a good night.